What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk to you about a new horror movie that was released on VOD just recently. And I have been so excited to watch this movie for one particular reason. And that is because this film is directed by Matthew John Lawrence, who directed the film Uncle Peckerhead, which is a huge personal favorite movie of mine. I love so much about it. I love the characterization of the film. I love the practical effects. And I love the way that it kind of examined the life of touring DIY musicians while also mixing in really incredible horror elements. And it's just a movie that ever since I watched the first time and on multiple revisits, I just continue to grow to appreciate more and more. And Matt is clearly a director who has a true passion for the genre. And I was lucky enough a while back to get to interview Matt. He is just a genuine guy who loves making movies. And so hearing about this project, I was really excited about it. Has a really cool premise, and I'm looking forward to telling you about Bloody Axe Wound today. Bloody Axe Wound is directed by Matthew John Lawrence. Abbie Bladecut is a teenager torn between the macabre traditions of her family's bloody trade and the tender stirrings of her first crush. In the small town of Clover Falls, Abbie's father Roger has built an infamous legacy by capturing real-life killings on tape and selling them to eager customers. But as Abbie delves deeper into the grisly family business, she begins to wonder if it's time to take the family tradition in a new direction. So, I was really excited to watch this movie. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Matt's film Uncle Peckerhead, so I was hoping that everything that made that movie special would translate into this new project. And I am happy to report this movie is so much fun. It is super entertaining. It's very well made. And what I really appreciate about it is it's a movie that manages to combine really great comedy with a true heartfelt core. And I like that a lot. It's very similar to Uncle Peckerhead, where it can hit all these themes with the characters where you actually get genuine emotion built between them, but also just be a fun kind of over the top, absurd horror movie. And I really appreciated that a lot. And I'm looking forward to telling you about it today. So, as the plot description states, this movie takes place in a weird sort of alternate reality where a slasher icon actually exists, and he goes around killing people and video recording it and selling them as horror movies. And people eat it up. People constantly are renting the movies, and the killer, Roger Bladecut, is constantly coming up with ideas for his movies. He's very much the Jason archetype, which I thought was really cool. And in this universe, he has a daughter, Abbie, played by Sari Arambulo, who she is at first really interested in taking on the family's legacy, and she wants to be a part of it. She watches her dad commit these murders. She's always kind of side by side with him. And she also works at the video store that he runs. And he starts talking about how, he's ready to transition the whole thing over. And initially he wants to give it to the guy who runs their video store. But throughout a series of events, it eventually falls into the lap of Abbie. And so she ends up going to this high school to try to look and research the people that she's going to kill. When she goes there, she's introduced to Sam, played by Molly Brown, who is in a band. She just kind of radiates cool, and she's immediately like drawn to her. And she starts to form a relationship with these kids at the school. And even though she is supposed to kill them, she starts to develop emotional attachment to them, which in turn makes her question the entire thing. And so the entirety of the film is Abbie kind of dealing with this internal conflict of, I don't want to kill these people. They're good people. I don't understand why they're supposed to be killed. And her father pushing back at her saying, no, this is the family business. This is what we have to do. So like I said, I thought this movie was great. I really had a ton of fun watching this. And there's a multitude of reasons why. For starters, I want to talk about one of my favorite parts of this movie, which is the practical effects. The reason why I loved Uncle Peckerhead so much is there was some really fantastic practical effects work in that movie, and it just seems like Matt improved on it even more in this. Some of the kills in this are incredibly gnarly and over the top. There's just like buckets and buckets of blood, and it looks great. There's one in particular towards the third act. I was cracking up at it in the situation, but just appreciating how incredible the detail was and just where they took it. Because one of the things about this movie is it's clearly paying homage in a way to the slasher genre and just kind of showcasing what makes those movies so much fun and why people are so drawn to that genre, which is the absurdist kills. And I really like where Matt took this movie and where some of these kills went. That there's some that feel like they're, paying tribute to some of the classic slasher films, especially Friday the 13th. There's also a lot of new and unique spins on kills in this movie that I very much appreciated. And I think the practical effects are really what drew me in initially. I really loved watching all of those scenes play out on screen. I also really enjoyed the performances in this movie. There's a ton of really talented actors in this. I'm not super familiar with Sari Arambulo, but I think she delivers a really fantastic and believable performance in this movie, and she had a ton of charisma. It was really easy to watch her on screen, and I feel like her character was very believable, which is what I like because in the beginning, she's so kind of like stripped of any sort of emotion towards these victims. And when she's kind of put in the driver's seat, it completely and totally changes her perspective. And I think showcasing that emotional shift, it takes a talented actor to kind of, be able to see it behind the eyes and through the facial expressions. And I just found her to be very believable, and she did a really great job. Molly Brown, who played Sam, was also excellent in this movie. I've been watching the Dexter Original Sin prequel TV show right now, and she has been incredible as Deb. I've really loved her performance and think that she's a fantastic and talented actress. And so it was cool to see her in another project. And I think she really nailed this role of like the just kind of kid that radiates that cool energy at school, that's like in this band that's playing these like shitty punk shows that hardly anyone comes to. Like it was just a really fun performance. And I think the two's chemistry is really great. Billy Burke as Roger Bladecut as the main slasher, he was so much fun in this. I really liked the makeup job that they did on him. He just looked like one of those killers, like unmasked. And I thought that it was great. Like, it's very jarring when you're jumped into the world at first because it's like it's just happening and playing out in front of you. But as soon as you settle in, like, it's just so much fun to watch him interact, and like the way he talks about a lot of the slasher movie tropes. It was just a lot of fun. It was very subversive and engaging, and I liked that about the movie a lot. I also thought it was really competently shot. I also liked the use of music. Matt is clearly someone who music is a very important part of his life through Uncle Peckerhead, and just a lot of the references in this movie to punk music. I really liked the attention to detail where they did some callbacks to Uncle Peckerhead. And then like in Sam's room, I saw a Joyce Manor poster. They're like one of my favorite bands. So it was really cool to see that kind of reference point. And there's a ton of like punk posters on the wall. It was really, really cool to see. And I liked that a lot about the movie as well. And I really think Matt does a very great job of combining elements of horror comedy that we know and love, but also providing a genuine, authentic, emotional core. Because at the center of this movie, it really is a relationship between a dad and their child. And the interesting part about it is they've been conditioned for so long to believe one thing that when they finally get to experience it on their own, they start to question it and they start to wonder, well, why does this have to be the way that this is? And I find that so interesting because I've talked about it a million times before, but I grew up in a very conservative Christian household. My dad was a minister, and I was programmed to believe something very specifically up until my teenage years, until I went out on my own. And as an adult, as I've said before, I don't practice religion anymore. I'm very much the complete and total opposite of that type of a person. And I think it's interesting whenever I watch a movie where it's like there's this conflicting relationship with a parental figure that wants you to do something a specific way, then you question it, and then you are treated poorly because you have your own opinion on the situation. And I just think the way that that emotion is captured in this film is very authentic and believable. And I think a lot of people will relate to that element of the movie. But even outside of just the really great emotional dynamics, it's a hell of a lot of fun, which is exactly what a movie like this needs to be. It never takes itself too seriously, which is what the best horror comedies do. You have to be able to tonally balance horror and comedy well. And this movie seamlessly kind of jumps between both. It can get very gnarly and grisly in moments, but it also can get very absurd and fun in others. And I think that's what all the brilliant horror comedies do. And if you're a fan of horror comedy, if you're a fan of slasher films in particular, I would highly, highly recommend you check this movie out. It is a ton of fun. So have you seen Bloody Axe Wound? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was awesome, and I already can't wait to watch it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.